and welcome to the Marley Bird YouTube channel, brought to you by Red Hot Yarns. In this video, I will show you how to make this super cute crochet bear hat. This hat is part of a pattern that includes a diaper cover as well. You can find the video for the diaper cover in the video description box below, or if you click that little I button right there, it'll take you to the video for the diaper cover. But in this video, we will not be making the diaper cover. We will solely be making the Crochet Bear Hat. For this hat, you will need 2 balls of Baby Hugs yarn that is worsted weight. You will also need 2 crochet hooks, one a 4mm, the other a 5mm. You'll need a good tapestry needle and a good pair of scissors, so that way you can weave in your ends and also do the very easy embroidery on the top part of the baby hat. Last but not least, you also need the free pattern, which can be found over on redheart.com. I'll be sure to put a link to the free pattern in the video description box right down there below. And while you're down there, go ahead and smash that like button and hit subscribe to the Marley Bird YouTube channel so that you get notified whenever there are more videos just like this one. Now go ahead, gather your materials and your free pattern. Join me back here and I'll walk you through how to make this really a super cute crochet bear hat. To make this really cute crochet bear hat, we have to start with the brim. The brim of the hat is made with color A, and we will start with a slip knot. Place the tail of the yarn in the palm of your hand. Take your working yarn, wrap it around your forefinger and middle finger, and when you come back up, cross over. Rotate your hand over, and with the smaller hook, go ahead and go underneath the front loop and grab the back loop and pull it off. You now have a slip knot. You can go ahead and tighten that slip knot directly on your hook. Once you have the slip knot, it's time to create the chains. For this particular part of the hat, we will chain 10 chains. Remember that you never count the loop on your hook as a stitch. And now we want to single crochet in the second chain from hook. So we will go into that second chain from hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through the 2 loops on our hook. Then we will go ahead and work a single crochet into each chain all the way to the end of this row. At the end, we will have a total of 9 single crochets. As we move on to the second row, this is where our repeat begins. So we will go ahead and turn our work and work a chain 1. And now, instead of going into our single crochets like you normally would through both loops, we are going to only work into the back loop of the stitch. So normally we would work through both just like so. But when we work this ribbed portion of the hat, we want to work into the back loop only. And we will do this for the remainder of this portion of the hat. We will work the single crochets into the back loop only. See that? And what this does is it creates a really nice ribbed look to the brim of the hat. When you're at the end of the row, take a second. If you're not sure if you've gotten all your stitches, count your single crochets. You should have a total of 9. You carry on repeating row 2 until you have completed a total of 52 rows for the smaller hat, 56 rows for the medium-size hat, and 60 rows for the large-size hat. I've gone ahead and worked up my 52 rows because I'm making the smallest hat. And I've gotten to the point on the pattern where I've just finished the last single crochet. What I want to do now is switch to my new color. And in order to do that, we need to undo that last single crochet. Go ahead and remove your hook and pull out that last single crochet you had completed. Place the loop back on your hook and let's partially complete this stitch again. So I'm in the back loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, but now instead of yarning over with my yarn I've been using, I will grab my other color yarn and I will change to my new color yarn on the finished part of that single crochet. What that does is it places my new color on my hook, and it makes it so I don't have a color bleed on my actual band of the hat. At this point, I'm also going to change hook sizes. To change your hook size, simply remove the smaller hook from your work and grab your bigger hook. Place the loop on the bigger hook and you're ready to go. You can go ahead and cut the yarn from the ball of yarn you were working with for your ball band, or from your the band of your hat. And then we're going to take this band and we're going to rotate it sideways, because we will be working single crochets evenly along the long edge of this hat. What's great is no matter what size you're making, you will be able to work a single crochet into the edge of the row for every row you did for the brim of the hat. And that's because Michelle Wilcox wrote the pattern in such a way that if you did the small size, you had 52 rows, and then when you go to do your single crochets, you will do 52 single crochets. If you did the medium, you did 56 rows, and then when you work along the long edge, you will do 56 single crochets. Same for the large size, you did 60 rows, you'll do 60 single crochets along the edge. So that means if we put one single crochet into the edge of each row, we will get the correct number. So we start off here with a chain one. So you will chain one, and then working into the edge of each row, you will do a single crochet. And you're simply going to work around those stitches. So for me, like you can see how this stitch goes into that hole. So I'll put a stitch into that hole. And then here is a big space for the next row. And I just work around that entire stitch. Okay. And I found that when I work down the row this way, it's very even and it looks very clean. Once you have worked single crochets as evenly as possible along the brim of the hat, you will carry on with the pattern. And rows 2 through 11 for the small, 12 for the medium, and 14 for the large is just a series of single crochets worked back and forth without any shaping. So what you will do is you'll go ahead and you'll pick up your work and give it a turn. You will chain one and then simply place a single crochet into each one of the single crochets you just created along the brim of the hat. And you will do this for the number of rows as indicated for the size you are making. Once the body of your hat is complete, the only thing left to do is the crown, and that's where we shape the top so that you actually get the round head. Let's go ahead and jump in and learn that portion now. Now remember, I am making the smaller size hat, so I will be using the smaller size instructions, but if you're making the other sizes, follow the instructions as written for those. To begin here, we start off with a chain one. So I will go ahead and I begin with the chain one. And now in the instructions, you'll notice that there is a bracket. What you need to know is that everything that is written inside of the bracket must be done for the number of times written outside of the bracket. So for this example, I will go ahead and I will single crochet in the first 11 single crochet because I'm making the small size. If you're making the medium, you will single crochet in 12 of the single crochets. If you're making a large, you will single crochet into 8. 11. Now I need to do a single crochet 2 together, and this is where our shaping begins. For a single crochet 2 together, I will go into the next stitch, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Then I will go over to the next stitch over, yarn over, and pull up a loop. So I have 3 loops on my hook, and I will yarn over and draw through all 3 loops on my hook. What that's done is I have taken 2 stitches and created 1, so I've worked a decrease. Now going back to your pattern, you will see that that's the end of your bracket and there's a number outside of the bracket. That number lets you know that we have to redo everything we just did for the number of times outside of the bracket. So for me, because I'm making the small size, I want to go ahead and repeat the instructions in the bracket by single crocheting across 11 stitches, then working a single crochet 2 together. And I will do that 4 times total. If you ever get lost on where your stitches are, find where your single crochet 2 together was and then count from there. So there's my single crochet 2 together, and then I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and I will work my single crochet 2 together again right there. So that's repeated twice. I have to repeat it 2 more times for the size I'm making. As you finish up your last single crochet 2 together, go ahead and recount that row and count those single crochet 2 togethers as 1 stitch now to make sure that you have the correct stitch count. If you have the correct stitch count, go ahead and let's move on to the next row. For the next row, we go ahead and turn our work and we begin with a chain 1. Then we go ahead and we start with our single crochet in the next series of stitches as written in the instructions. For me, I have to do 6 single crochet. I think that's 4, 5, 6. I'm going to go back and count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now I have to do a single crochet 2 together. So just like before, I go to the next stitch and pull up a loop. Then I go to the next stitch over from that one and pull up a loop, yarn over and draw through all 3 loops on my hook. So that there, the 6 single crochet and the single crochet 2 together is all that was written in my bracket. And you'll notice in the bracket from there, I have to do that a total of 6 times. So I will continue on and I will work my single crochets and then my single crochet 2 together for a total of 6 times. Remember, if you're making one of the other sizes, you need to make sure you're working the stitch count as written in the pattern for the size you're making. At the end of your row, as you're working your single crochet 2 together, you can go ahead, set down your work, and again, count all of your stitches to make sure you're on the same stitch count. It's very important that we maintain the stitch count as written in the instructions. Once you have confirmed you have the correct number of stitches, let's move on. For the next 4 rows, all of the sizes will be doing the same number of repeats across the row. Make sure you take a look at the pattern to see how many stitches you must be working between each single crochet 2 together. Make sure you're still following along with the pattern. At the end of this row, check your stitch count, turn your work, and carry on to the next row. Now for the small size, I'm on my very last row. For the medium and large sizes, you guys have 1 more row to complete after this one. But you'll notice that on this row for me, I'm just working single crochet 2 togethers all the way across this row. And that's really going to draw the top of this hat in really nice and curved. Once you complete the last single crochet 2 together of whatever row the final row is for you, go ahead and finish off your work by doing a chain 1. And then I want to have you cut your yarn, leaving a nice length of yarn because we're going to use this to actually sew up the side of the hat. So make sure you leave a nice long tail. And then go ahead and pull that through, and that will fasten off your work. So as I set this down, you're going to see that it wants to cup in already so that way it can be sewn together, okay? You see how cool that is? But as I straighten this out, you can see where the shaping starts to take shape as we're working along here. Okay, now that you have finished the body of your hat, the crown of your hat, it's time for the finishing touches. Now that the body of the hat is complete, it's time to seam it up so that we actually get a hat. You want to make sure that we have the wrong side of the hat facing us when we do this seaming. What I like to do is look for this nice little V part as it's attached to the brim of the hat. And that nice V part, that indicates that this is the right side. So as I flip this over and I look at this opposite side, can you see how this is the back side of the single crochets and those V's look like they're more separated apart? So I'm going to call that the wrong side. And that's the side I want to make sure is facing me as I stitch this piece together. So remember, I told you to leave a nice long tail, and that's so that we don't have to join a new thing of yarn to create this wonderful seam, right? We already have the yarn attached. So what I like to do here is I am going to go ahead, I'm going to come up here and put this together later, but I'm going to have this edge here meet up with its partner on the opposite side. And I am going to just put this together. Okay, so now the hat is pulled together. Now that I have the two pieces semi-joined together, I can go ahead and close the top of the hat. For me, I like to close the top of the hat sort of like a drawstring. So what I'm going to do is through each one of these stitches, I'm going to go through them just like so. Okay, so I'm going through the entire stitch, just going, let me just make sure I don't miss one here. Go into each stitch all the way around. We're going to go, you go from the outside towards the inside, okay? So I'm going from the outside and I'm bringing my needle towards the center. And what will happen here is when I give this yarn a nice pull, it's going to pull the center of this hat together like a drawstring. And it's going to make a really nice finish at the top of the hat. So all the way back here to the very beginning. And then watch as I do this. I'm going to give this a pull and it's going to pull all of that together. Can you see that? And the only reason I can do this is because I have a really nice acrylic yarn that's nice and strong. So when I pull all those stitches together, it doesn't break. Now that all the stitches are pulled together, I can go around one more time and really try and secure all of these in place. So that way the top of my hat doesn't come undone. And when I get my yarn back to the point where the seaming needs to happen down the back of the hat, that's where I want to stop pulling this together. All right, so there we are. That's the top of my hat. It's all pulled together nice and neat. My yarn is right here, ready to do this seaming. Now, as I'm seaming along here, I'm going to use the whip stitch, and I want to make sure that I have each edge, each row partnered up with its other opposite side, okay? And the reason I want to make sure that happens is because it'll make it so that way we don't accidentally have our finishing like this at the end. We want to make sure everything is nice and even. If you wanted to partner it up like this, see how they're all together? I have them all matched up, really easy. And I'm just going to go through and just do a whip stitch. And because this is the back of the hat, it's not going to show as the hat's being worn. And if you take your time and do this whip stitch carefully, it actually won't show that bad at all. If you want to try out some other ways to join or seam crochet, go ahead and check out that video right there. I show you 3 different ways that you can seam crochet if you don't want to choose this one. When you get to the point of your pattern where the color changes, go ahead and use your tail from the band of your hat to make sure that that is whipped together with the same color. So at this point, I'm finishing up with my brownish color, and I will go ahead and weave in this end before I start with the peach color. I'm just going to pull it all together real nice and neat. And because I use the whip stitch, I have this nice seam right here that I can work my stitches up a little ways to make sure they're nice and secure. I'm going to trim this because I don't need all of this anymore to secure this in. And just make sure my tail is nice and secure in there, because the last thing you want is for your hat to come undone, right? You don't want this hat to come undone as the baby is wearing it, right? That's no fun. You also want to make sure that it doesn't come undone in the wash if the mom or dad has to wash the hat. All right, so once you've woven in that tail, you can go ahead and thread the tail of the yarn left over from the band of the hat, the brim of the hat, and go ahead and connect these stitches together as well. Again, I'm just using the whip stitch, just pulling it all together. I'm at the end. I'm taking the time to weave in my end right now, so that way it is done and I don't have to worry about coming back later on and doing it. And I am again making sure that it's in there really nice and secure. Here is my hat with it all seamed up with the wrong side out. So as I go ahead and I flip this with the right side out, there's the seam. So if I rotate it over, this is the front of my hat. Pretty cute, right? Now, you know how to make this really simple hat, and if you wanted to stop here, you absolutely could. But if you want to add that little extra touch and make it a super cute bear hat, let me show you how to make the ears and do the simple embroidery on top of the hat. We've made a functional hat, but we want to make a super cute functional hat. So it's time to make some ears to place on this hat. As you take a look down here, you can see the hat we've made against the sample hat. So I'm going to move this aside, and you can see the ears of this hat are just some simple round sections, and then those are sewn onto the top of the hat. So we have to make 2 ears. That's what we're going to do right now. So go ahead and grab your yarn and your hook. You want to make the ears of the hat the same color as the body of your hat, and we will make the ears using the larger crochet hook. We'll go ahead and place the slip knot on the hook just like before, and we will chain 4. Once you've chained 4, we have a series of stitches we're going to work into those chains. The first one is put a single crochet in the second chain from hook. So I'm in the second chain from hook, and I will place a single crochet. Once you've placed that single crochet there, you'll do a half double crochet in the next chain. So I will do a half double crochet in the next chain. Once you've worked that half double crochet, we will do 5 half double crochet in the last chain. So in this very last chain, I will place 5 half double crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 half double crochets. Hold on, we're not done. Now we want to rotate our work, and working along this edge of the foundation chain, we are going to place a half double crochet in the second foundation chain and a single crochet in the first one. Pretty cool, right? Can you see how this is really starting to take shape like an ear? So now that we've created this series of stitches along here, we have one more row. So we will go ahead and we will turn our work, we will chain 1, and we'll single crochet in this single crochet, the first one. We will half double crochet in the next 3 stitches. So there's 1 and 2 and 3. Now we will place 3 half double crochets in the next. And we will do a half double crochet in the next 3 stitches. And finish it off with a single crochet. That's the end of the instructions for the ear for the smaller size. If you're making the medium or the large size hat, you have one more row. Let me show you what that looks like. So if you were making the 2 larger size hats, you would go ahead, turn your work, chain 1, and you would single crochet in the next 2 single crochets. So there's 1 and 2. You would place 2 single crochet in the next single crochet. So there's 1, and then I'm going to put 1 more single crochet into that stitch. Now you'll notice all of those instructions were in a bracket. And so just like when we did the shaping of the crown, we have to look at the number outside of the bracket to find out how many times we have to do all of the instructions within the bracket. So as we look outside the bracket, we have to do all of this a total of 3 times. So I will go ahead, I will single crochet in the next 2 single crochet, and then I will place 2 single crochet all in the next one. So these both go in the same one. Then I will single crochet in the next two. And then I will place 2 single crochet in the next one. Then I finish off with 2 single crochet in the last 2 stitches. So for the larger hat, obviously the ear is a little bit bigger. And if I'm honest, I really like the way that looks even for the smaller hat. Once you finish the first ear, go ahead and make the second one, and then we'll sew them onto the hat. Okay, you've finished both ears and it's time to sew them on. But before we do that, we want to put a face on our hat so that way we can put the ears on either side of it. We have our blank canvas right here with our hat, and here are my 2 ears, so I'm going to just set those aside, okay? And with the same color yarn as I used for the brim, I've threaded onto my tapestry needle, which I've used all along to sew this piece together. And we want to use a satin stitch to create the eyes and the nose. And so I'm making sure that the seam of my hat is in the center back. So I have it in the center back and I have the right side facing me. And I have this nice line of decreases right here. And I think that's where I want to put my nose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the nose so that way I can evenly space out the eyes from the nose. So right here, I can see there's a decrease right there, and that's where I will begin. I will take my needle already thread on, and I'm coming through from the opposite side, and I'm just going to pop it up right where I think I want to put this nose. And I will leave a nice length of tail on the inside of the hat just so I can go back and weave that in later. And right here, all I'm going to do is I am just going to essentially wrap around all of this stitch. So I will come and I just want to try and make sure that these loops are side by side with one another, okay? Just so it's nice and clean, just make it look a little neat. If you wanted to use maybe like a French knot or do some other type of embroidery, you could do that as well. I am not an embroiderer, and so I don't do a whole lot of it. There's just a few stitches that I know how to do. But luckily, this is one of those stitches that I know how to do, and it was written in the pattern. So it's literally, I'm just wrapping around this stitch. I want to make sure it's not too bulbous or too funny looking, and just make it look like a little nose. So right here, I'm going to go ahead and pop back in and pull this through to the inside. Maybe. And so if I do that, there's a nice little nose right there, right? It's a nice little nose for my bear. Now, with the eyes, I can decide, do I want my eyes closer together? Do I want them further apart? What do I want to do? Well, I kind of have a feeling I like the eyes a little bit further apart. I think they look more fun. And so you can do a satin stitch for that part as well. So let's go ahead and I'll jump in and do that also. Now that we have eyes, we want to create a nice little mouth, and we'll do that using the straight stitch. So once again, using the nose as our guide, we will go ahead and bring up your yarn. Whoops, I dropped it. Bring up your yarn right underneath the nose, and we will just do a straight stitch. So it's just going to bring it down just like so. And then I'm going to come over to the side a little ways, maybe up, maybe make it look like it's smiling, and pop it back down. And then come over to the opposite side. Let's see, 1, 2, I did the third one. Trying to do it as even as possible and come back down. So once you've done that and you weave in your ends, look how cute that is. We have a nice little face to our bear. Now that we have a face, we can easily just sew on our ears. It's as easy as taking each ear and with the long tail that you left after you finished off, finding where you want to place the ear and just sewing that into place. You could either put it closer to the top or more along the side. I think it looks cuter right here along the side. You can try any way you want. Let's go ahead and sew these puppies on. One little tip I have for you as far as where to place the ears is to use stitch markers to help you. So I would take an ear and I'm just going to pin it with a stitch marker in place to see if that's exactly where I want that ear to be. So I'm just going to kind of attach that one right there as a rough estimate. And let's see, so that one, it's along this line. And so if I put the center along that line, that makes them pretty centered up. Let me put that on there. And then this is a way where it's not permanently attached, but you can see is that where you want them to be. And I love that placement. So what I will do now is I will take my yarn that's already attached to my ear, thread it on, and then just stitch it along these stitches going from the inside out. So I will leave my marker in place just so it doesn't go anywhere, right? Now that I have them set, I don't want them to go anywhere. And then I'll just simply make this happen. Once you finish one, go ahead and attach the other one. You'll notice I am really stitching these into place really well, so that way as little hands start to tug on it, it's not going to fall apart. And last stitch to attach this. I'm going to pop this down. Take a look. Let's take a look at what I got here. Oh, those are so cute. I feel like those are good and secured in place, so I feel confident enough I can take those markers out that were holding them. Isn't that just handy? It's handy to have those markers in place. And now the last thing to do is to flip your hat inside out and just weave in your tails. So at this point, I've woven in all my other tails except the ones that I just have right now for the ears. So I'll go ahead and do that. Once your tails are all woven in, you can turn your hat right side out and really admire your work. Look how cute this little bear hat is. So stinking adorable. And if you make the Crochet Bear Hat and diaper cover, you will have a wonderful, cute little handmade set for the next baby shower that you attend. I hope you've enjoyed this bear hat video. If you want to check out the video for the diaper cover to make it a set, go ahead and click on the video description box below and you'll find the link. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Marley Bird, proud spokesperson for Red Heart Yarns. Bye. Everything you need to know about knitting or crochet can be found right here on the Marley Bird YouTube channel. Learn with Marley Bird. Visit youtube.com/Marley Bird.